You are listening to the Your First Listen album premiere special of July Talk's new album, Remember Never Before, and that was When You Stop. I like the lyric, when you stop, you'll find out what you're running from, is really, really memorable. When the world stopped for you all, what did you find out you were running from?
Like a lot of people, I just kind of kept some doors closed inside, and I had gone through a lot of just pretty intense suffer for your art kind of time coming out of my teens into my 20s, where I was very dead on convinced that I had to damage myself in a lot of different ways in order to exist and matter, I guess. I think that I was convinced at that time that I was sort of unremarkable, and I needed to figure that out. And therefore I pushed myself into some pretty toxic behavior where I was just kind of unkind to myself for a period. And of course then I met Leah and Josh and Ian and Danny and went on tour and became an adult. And like everybody, you learn how to cope and you learn how to be kinder to yourself. But there was still these doors that were just closed, from that period, and I think that over the pandemic I was forced, and when I say forced, it was it was a must. It became a must to open those doors up and figure out how to deal with them, which is really hard to do. And then once you do it, it suddenly feels like you couldn't figure out why it was hard.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
Even though you end up with a mess. People say, go to therapy, it'll all work out. It's like, well, when you go to therapy, it just turns into a giant mess in front of you and you have to sort it out. But
it's almost like you can at least see the mess.
Totally.
For what it is.
And I think that I feel very privileged that I was able to do that. But, the biggest privilege was just the friends and family surrounding me that helped me through that. So When You Stop, we went into the studio with Kevin at our jam space just up on Keel, and we were just jamming, and the song came about in a moment. It was like, no ideas beforehand. You just walk in and start playing, and I was pacing around the room as I heard this drum beat that just felt so persistent, like it couldn't be stopped even if you tried. And I just started singing that to myself. When you stop, you find out what you're running from. And it was one of those times you trust your gut, you know what I mean? And it felt like all of the anguish and all of the struggle that we've all been through, everybody listening to this has a version of that, especially over the last couple of years. And so it just kind of washed over us in the space that day. And I think that the rest of the process was just trying to capture that energy, as you do. But it was a special moment for sure.
I feel like we're going really deep here. I like the fact that...
That's okay.
No, it's great. It's interesting, though, because there's a lot of juxtaposition about the energy of your live show and how intense you guys are live and how people are always dancing and moving. But really, there's so much, heart and soul and personal experience in these songs when we talk about them. It really moves me.
For me, when I had time to stop, there was... certain things that I guess by no fault of my parents, but there's certain things that I wasn't able to look at from my family history and learning about epigenetics and stuff like that. I just found it was going to be really important to me to not karmically and cosmically pass on certain things to the future of the planet. And so I kind of went back and did some family history stuff and also I think just living in Canada as a settler and living on this land and knowing that I'm not of this land and grappling with that, it really helped me to learn about how I got here and how my grandparents got here and just filling in the blanks of some of those mysteries, because it's almost when you feel alien or you don't know where you come from, there's a lot more opportunity to kind of hate yourself. And I found that it was really helpful for me to figure out where I come from. And I'm still like on that journey, but that's kind of, I found like the thing that I guess had been nagging at me for years and I didn't know. And then when we had time to do it, it was really important.
You happened to bring something in with you into the studio. It looks like a 1980s Fisher-Price cassette player. Oh, it is.
Ding, ding, ding.
It is. I saw like the like oatmeal-y brown and then the 4 buttons.
Oh my God, and they feel so good to press.
Yeah. So what is, can you tell us what is this all about?
Well, yeah, I had this, I don't think it wasn't this exact one, but I had this Fisher-Price cassette player when I was a kid and like used to just carry around Beatles cassette tapes and stuff like that, Buddy Holly and whatever. But Peter found this tape in our storage space when he was looking for something else. And it kind of like hit him on the head serendipitously almost. And it was like my mom's birthday was coming up and we wanted to make a big deal out of it and didn't know what to do. And this like tape just kind of like made itself known. And he like brought it home and we put it in the cassette player, and it's my grandmother speaking to God on her, I think she's like 52, her 52nd birthday in the 80s, and 55. Anyway, we ended up putting a clip of it on after this.
How did you feel when you heard that?
I felt like she's talking about the end of the world, and she's talking about heading towards self-destruction, but I felt oddly comforted by it. Just to know that she was pondering these big things, and she was scared, and she was worried, and she had every right to be worried. And she'd seen a lot and been through a lot, but she kept going, and she loved and lived and felt that life was worth living until the day she died. So I guess just like going through everything that we've all been through over the past couple of years and all the worry and the doomism and just like, the news, everything we're faced with every day. It just like, I found it really comforting to know that one of my ancestors was like going through the same stuff.